I'm gonna try to do my best to make this into a video format once again. If you're in Twitch chat, you may have noticed the fact that I already said some things. The notes for the stream are what I want to talk about today. Why I want to talk about them? Who knows? I can tell you why, because I thought it would be a nice thing I could do for Spider. First of all, it isn't be a nice thing to do because I've already been talking about mental stuff already. But I figure, why not just go even further? And just do an entire video dedicated to it. So that is what we are doing. We're playing Rocket League because it's probably the best game for me to play currently, where I can focus and communicate at the same time. But yeah, so I don't know if y'all can see them anymore, but here are the topic for today's video. Thank you for joining, watching the video. But here are some of the notes I have for today's video. I wanted to talk about what is the value of life and how do we add it, and how it is added to, aka how people how to talk about feelings. I want to talk about understanding people, being drained, and like just being burned out in general. 'Cause I talked about it a little bit, but I want to go in more detail about it. Um, Give me a second. I'll continue listing it in a bit. Uh, but while I pause, because I like the main purpose of the video is because I wanted to talk about mental health things, right? At least as far as y'all are aware. But in particular, what inspired this video was Spider. She was not mentioning, like recently she had been really stressed out and whatnot, and she was like, I'm lazy, and I just know that's not true. First of all, even if it was, it wouldn't change my opinion of her. Cause yeah, okay, you're lazy. Let me just do all the work for you. That's literally how my personality is anyway. So, but now that's on the score. Do you want to talk about that? Why do I live? Just an interesting question. Like, hey, why do we live? Hey, that'd be funny if that's my friend. Uh, Lazy and burned out. This is slightly different from being drained. Not that much so. Well, being drained and being burned out are two different things. Uh, and I want to include both of them because, one, I was really drained during the writing process of this. Like, extremely tired. Um, I'm pretty sure overwhelmed too. But, I wanted to talk about it. Okay. I thought I had enough time to get the thing. Or being lazy. Change. How do people change and whatnot? And forgiveness. Yes, I know I talked about forgiveness once before, but this would be different. So let's start off with about wait. What is the value of life? Um, this is a very subjective question and different from what is the meaning of life in my opinion. Because the meaning of life is asking for the purpose of being here, in which case, very, very subjective. And, well, of course, these are philosophical questions, so they're always will be subjective to some extent. But it's like, the meaning of life is literally different for every person, and everyone have a different interpretation of it. One of my favorite interpretation I listened to recently, I was watching Sisyphus 55. Go check them out. That would probably be today's shout out. Okay. But one of my favorite ones is that I heard recently is the ideology of the fact that the meaning of life is nothing. The meaning is for us to ask life. I mean, for life to ask us questions, and for us to struggle. And I think that's really good. I saw a quote that simultaneously would work for what I was going to use it for, but also could work the other way around. But I think another interesting question: what is the value of life? Because while we do ask what is the meaning of life, value is also important. Because even if there's a meaning to something, if that meaning have no value, then what's the point? Hence why do I live? Um, the value of life is very weird. In my opinion, it's depends on the person. You see, I say the value of life is the ability to grow and change. Um, as to say it in a more philosophical manner, one's ability to evolve to the scenarios around them, whether for negative or positive, is the value of life. As without suffering and only blissful happiness, you will not be have any true satisfaction in your life. Um, but to put it in other words, the Matrix had some flaws in it, where it's like you could, be depressed and whatnot, because living the perfect life is kind of inherently valueless. You can kind of see this even in stuff like Naruto, the Eye of the Mu plan, um, stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, they're in their perfect life, but they still struggle. Like Naruto, they're still low. Actually, what who point of view was it? I don't know who it was. 'Cause I never watched Shippuden. I just know about pretty much everything about it. But I should have continued. I was like, nah, he gonna knock it back. Nope, no, he did not. But in Shippuden, I don't know who it is, but like even Naruto, I'm assuming Naruto, Perfect Life, where you have like his parents and whatnot, perfect control of the nine-tailed clones. There's still war. Like he still have some struggle, despite it being like, oh, it's perfect life, and that it is a perfect life, but it's more like a life where you can achieve what you want, um, with ease and less external reasoning behind why you can't. Like not just I don't train enough, but it's like well in what's called Rock League case, it could be like oh well I literally don't have like can't use chakra to mold stuff, so that's what prevented me from like becoming a great ninja. Uh, but it's the value of these hardships. Okay, I'm playing so bad. But it's the value of these hardships that make life worth living, I guess. Or what I say is a value of life. Because it's these tiny problems that we think of that can add up. And then it also go on to how do we add value to our life. Because you would think, oh, put yourself through more challenges. And yeah, that could be partially the case. But, like, it's pointless to put yourself through more challenging situations if it's something that you don't like. Or if it's too challenging. Like stuff can be too challenging, and you just have to get help for it. Uh, I know I'm not the best one to be saying. By the way, keep everything I say with a grain of salt. Not only is this just my own opinion, but also I'm not a professional, so any psychology, like anything I say about like philosophy and whatnot, not professional. Ironically, it's some of my views because of like anime stuff happen to lean up with what you say some of the popular philosophers would say. Like, take for instance, I didn't know about Franklin until today, but while listening to him, I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty close to how I view life. But it's also the ability to change to add value to your life. And a part of my series that I'm doing, I want to discuss like, hey, can you change your nature? Now, in the series itself, I don't. I think I'm gonna lean more to yes, but in real life, uh, I feel like you can, but most people just never do or never will. And I feel like the general depiction on how I have the series will be the best way to be like, oh, so this is your viewpoint. Where my viewpoint is, yeah, you can kind of change your nature, but you can't, like, in the series, I'm probably gonna have it so it's like, yeah, no, you can change your nature. Or not, you can change your nature, but like, your nature doesn't really play a factor in life. Or something like that. I really don't know. I had a deer in my head, but I forgot it. But it's gonna be something like that, where it's like, generally speaking, not really, right? But when it comes to changing your nature, I do think that you can do it, but oftentimes it's not like removing it. Like you can't really remove your nature. You can change it. You can make it from being to use someone. Uh, you know what? I'm just gonna use a name because I hate this guy. uh, Michael, right? To use Michael as an example, he's a cheater and a manipulator. He will like I'm telling, that's his nature. That's just who he is as a person and how he will always be. Uh, and he might change his nature, but it's gonna be his nature still. He might go from, I don't know, lying to one person and like lying manipulating one person to another, or switching the tactics of how he does it or the why he does it. Like he might start off by doing it because, well, I want to make sure I get with this person, to be like, nah, I just want to do it out spite at this point, right? Or take, for instance, me, for example. One of my biggest, like, I don't like that about me that other people say is like a positive is I'm like forgiving. I am too forgiving to a default, to the point where a lot of my mental issues have derived from my forgiveness of either people or like scenarios. And then I'm also very much like I would just blame it on myself. Like if something goes wrong, I'd be like, yeah, my bad, that's my fault. In pretty much every case, like it legitimately doesn't matter what it is. But I also would say this does come with upsides though, and I have changed from being extremely. I haven't watched Sonic much by the way. An extremely bad case of this, where in every scenario I would do it, to slightly changing to be like, I will still take that role, but I will now actively acknowledge the parts that the other person have and still forgive them for it. Uh, so I do think you can somewhat change your nature and whatnot, but it's still kind of part of you. And then you also have just the ability to change like your personality and whatnot, in which you can to some extent. You can change your viewpoints and whatnot. And I think that changing your viewpoints and like your personalities somewhat is like where the value of life comes from, because it's so much better to be able to change than just to stay stagnated. Um, with that being said, though, uh, what was I saying? Oh, but then you also gotta keep in mind other people add value to your life too. Like, take for instance Spider. Oh my god, I don't know what it is about her, but she had so much value to my life. To the point where it's like I am way like just by talking to her, I was way better off than I was beforehand. Like I'm not gonna go into that detail of how bad I am, privacy or was privacy reasons, but like let me tell you, on a good day, you might be like, oh, you seem a little sad, or like I like to say that my face went from like one of like you can kind of tell this like I don't really have much, that I'm like, you know what, I'm really happy for this, to being like, oh, I'm always happy, or like I can't wait for something like this. Like I kind of explain it better, but it's like you could kind of tell by my face, type B. Oh, nice. I was assuming that it was gonna get bounced back out, but you can kind of tell by my face, right? And people can add value to your life, but they can also take value from your life. Like, people who add hardships to your life because of meaningless reasons should not be in your life. I know that I haven't always done the best at this. Once again, my nature just not very good for like a lot of who I am. But despite this, I'm trying to set them up. But despite this, like people who add meaningless drive to your life should just be cut off, and like isn't worth it. There's only so much you can do to try to change someone's opinion. So if they like have an opinion that's just wrong, then and you can't change it. So and it's like something that you don't agree with fundamentally, why even keep them around? Going back to this person once again, Michael is a manipulator and like just literal scum. He done one of the biggest things that I cannot forgive outside of, like literal crimes. Actually, no, this was a crime. He has committed multiple crimes, in which point I will point out. But well, not on here, but I will point them out later. to someone I realized I could do that with. But what's the point of me saying that? Oh, the point of me saying that is the man adds no value to anyone's life, especially as a significant other, because remember he's a pathological liar and a cheater. Okay, man. So when it comes to this, it's like meaningless to have him in your life. But when it comes to someone like that add me into your life, like Jared, we don't argue very much, or pretty much at all. Or Jay does reviews. You want me to start calling him by that when I like miss him, so that people can talk about him or go check out his channel. But like even when it comes to stuff like Jay does review, we don't argue very much. We do have different opinions about certain things, but it's not to the point where like we are arguing about anything. So I would say that. What I was saying? Oh, I would say that like he adds a ton of value to my life. And I don't just mean like, oh, they don't do anything to like cut them off. I mean like, if they're what they do to you is like a net, like not even a net positive, then why keep them around? Like they're like if someone's going through something, and I mean actually going through something, and you like okay, I can see why you're doing this and why you're acting this way, then I can understand, right? Like I can understand to some extent why Banshee was acting the way she did. I still don't agree with it, and especially after I learned more about it, I will say it was so stupid. But hey, I can kind of tell where she could have been coming from, right? And that's the point. But she did like add like value for the time being. And it was a net positive, I would say. I would say lean more net negative. And it's not just like me like adding like material value because that's no, I don't like doing that. I add material value to the relationships, but nah, I don't press people to like give me stuff. I actually would do the opposite. But it's stuff like that where I feel like, and it's hard for everyone to tell, like when, like, hey, should you cut them off? And I can tell you right now, I'm pretty good at knowing when I should. And if someone's like too bad, I can definitely do it. But for the most part, I would like try to let them change, try to forgive them. But don't get me wrong, if I will tell you this, right? Never once have I ever been wrong when I had like feel like, oh, this person is like terrible. Like never once have I ever had that instinct and have been proven wrong. Uh, Now with Michael, now with like previous people who I was like wouldn't be friends with. Like in no scenario, I feel like I haven't had a case where I like thought something like that and was proven wrong. There have been cases where like I thought that and it was like not actually the most concrete reasoning. Like there was one guy that he was just too like he was too much of a character that you would expect to see on a TV show, like the protagonist of a TV show in America. That I was like, no, I don't like you. It's just something weird about you. That like setting me off. And he kind of acted like that too, from what I heard. Like he was very pretentious. So actually, yeah. Or like there's this girl who I never really liked talking to. Um, Especially because she had the same thing going on with her. But you know how I was. I tried to have some lighthearted conversation. Just to find out, no, I was completely right. Not only would she talk crap about someone behind their back, which is crazy because then she did the same thing, so I don't really care. That would consider them her friend, I guess. I don't know what to say about that. But not only would she do that, but also, actually, give me 1 second to make sure that I'm not muted. Hello, hello. Not only would she do that, but also, all right, yeah, I'm not muted. Uh, but it's When she did something to a close friend of mine. I won't say it, but a close friend of mine. And I was like, scummy behavior. I'm not gonna go into detail what it was because you know it's his life, uh, not mine. But like, I never had a time where I did something like that and I weren't, I was proven wrong. To any extent. So when I have like, so I know that someone's really good if I have like no sense of that at all. Like with Jared, no sense of that. Uh, Actually, I'm just gonna call the TSA members by their names. Like Jared, pretty much most TSA members. There are some that are like, eh. Like one of them is just because their age, right? Like, I don't really want to talk to you privately because I would say that's weird. But some, like one of them is just like, you're not a bad person, I can tell, but I do know that you're very annoying, or will be very annoying. To be friends, like complete friends with. And I would say I never been proven wrong. So, yeah. Do with that information what you will. I would say that trust me when I say something. But yeah, like if someone doesn't add value to your life, or you can tell that there's something wrong, don't do it. And also, keep in mind, don't completely trust yourself, right? Because keep in mind, this goes back to my own forgiveness personality. There've been times where I could tell, like, oh no, this person, nah, this like we're not gonna be the best together, right? And I would still do it, Banshee. But that's besides the point, right? So like even when you come and listening to yourself, yeah, like put doubt in it. Especially if you have failed multiple times before. Like he might never failed with it before, but there've been times where like I would maybe have a falling out with a friend that was like, okay, that wasn't completely required. If I would just not, I mean, he was still wrong, but maybe I worded it better. Like there've been times where I've been like that, but like overall, well, granted, not very often because good friend choices. But what I'm saying, ooh, no, that's not why I went in the slightest. But overall, it's just like if take for instance, if you have been manipulated multiple times into that relationship, why are you going back to them? And then it's also I'm gonna apply this dating life too. Apply it to your dating life. Like, yeah, I'm for forgiveness and everything like that. But one thing I will say, and I'll tell, like, this person did agree with me, Spider did agree with this, but, it's like that thing where, like, you keep going back despite knowing they're wrong. Cheating is a no-go. Like, cheating is one of those things where I don't forgive people. But that's not the main thing that he did that, like, no, he's scum. It's the fact that he has threatened to kill himself to get back with a Spider when he cheated on her. So I know, like, he sucked, man. Like, that's like, using mental health like that as a weapon is already a line that I'm like, if you cross that, you are scum. But it's also, like, especially when, like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't do this, right? It's like, no, if you say that, like, I don't care who you are, if you ever do that around me, I am cutting you off, most likely. Or at least telling you, like, hey, don't do that again. It's kind of like me when blocking people. Like, I don't try to block people often because I'm a firm believer of giving people, like, at least ending it off with a nice conversation. And then never talking to them again. At least after you get understanding to some extent. Uh, so, but yeah, to summarize this proportion once again, why have people in your life that don't have value? Value of life is by challenges and hardships and the ability to change. Inherently, life have no value is the value that we put into it, of course. the via the change. So if it's hard work, then it's worse. And because of the fact that it's determined by our change, our mental health can also play a factor in how we value life. Kind of like how people don't appreciate themselves or love themselves. I guess is the best way. Like don't depressed. There is, can hurt themselves and whatnot, and will say like kill themselves, or sometimes it really depends. It's kind of like that, where it's like, dang it, if I wasn't backing up, I would have made it in time. Where it's like, yeah, no, um, if that didn't happen, then you would have way more value. Me, then it when you are sad like that, it makes you seem like your life has less value or you're doing something wrong. Now, with that being said and done, let's move on to the next topic. Being, I'll talk about your feelings. Alright, so this comes from just I feel like people in general don't know how to talk about their feelings or listen to people talk about their feelings. Now, let me begin with the listening portion, because I feel like that is the major part where it comes into issue. That many people don't know how to listen to people talk about feelings. I will say, all my friends are really good at it. Uh, right? Um, but let me give you some rundown. First of all, don't always try to solve everything. If the person like asking you for like a solution to it, then you can. But like overall, don't try to solve everything. Like you can offer help when it comes to stuff, like especially if it's like not a person case, but like if your partner or something is like overwhelmed, yeah, you can be like, hey, if you want, I can like help you out with it. Especially if it's something like school related or college related, like yeah, you can reach out an open hand for that. But otherwise, like actually listen. And when I say actually listen, people can tell when you're listening or not. Sometimes I don't think people think I'm listening, so I will be like have doubt about it. But when talking to my friends or whatnot, they're like, "No, well, you can tell you're listening." And I keep forgetting the GG button because I'm so focused. But when that is said and done, uh, oh wait, what I'm saying? Oh, but like you actually have to listen. People can tell when you're listening, and don't go into a conversation being like, "Oh, well, we can talk if you want." But like, or not like we can talk if you want. Don't go into a conversation asking someone about their mental health and then be like, "Yeah, you know, it's hard. Like my head is hard." And you can try to add to the conversation, but try to do it meaningfully. Like what I would do sometimes is I would like try to insert something like I'd be like to show that I'm listening and whatnot. I'm like, oh, I can understand what you're talking about because this something like this had happened to me before. Like adding input like that can be really helpful because they know that you're listening and whatnot. But that's not always necessary. And oftentimes I feel like that just leaves people complaining about their problems more. Like I do know that I myself have done that where I would be talking to someone or they'd be talking to me and I would like I kind of interrupt them by accident and then do it. And of course I apologize afterwards. And they're like, "Oh, it's all right." But like I don't like when I do that. And don't try to do that. Don't like transition it to be about you. Now, when it comes to talking about feelings, there's a few things that you have to be aware of. First of all, you have to actually be open to talk about it. Also, wait, when it comes to listening to feelings or trying to get people to talk about their feelings, don't force it. Forcing it never works. Um, out ever, I would say. Like, forcing is probably one of the worst things you could do because it can like cause strain between the relationship and distrust, depending on how you do it. Like if it's something like you could tell they're really stressed and like they're hesitant to talk to you about it, be like, hey, just tell me about it. And that's how I go about every relationship or friendship. Yeah, relationship is the right word I have, where it's like, yo, I don't care what it is. Tell me about your feelings, just in general. But also, like, let's say you're heavily stressed out about something. Don't be like, I don't want to say anything. Just be like, just tell me, because that's way easier than you acting on it without me knowing it, or just like, let's say it's a big reveal about something. It's so much easier for me and everyone else if you just tell me ahead of time. Um, because it's just like I don't have to worry about it or anything like that. Oh, I didn't. Not, I thought you always die if you hit someone like that. But not because you blow up, but like often that what happened at the start. You both going similar speeds. But what I'm saying. Oh, but like you can add to the conversation, but and you can be like, but like you have to. What I'm saying. Oh, but like when it comes to cases like that, yeah, like you can be like, hey, tell me, because this could be an issue, and I don't want it to become an issue in our conversation. It's kind of like blocking people, where I'm like, hey, that doesn't make any sense, because if you block me, then what? That's the end of the relationship, and that's what you're saying. Like, you don't want to talk to me again, and we won't be able to, like, actually discuss meaningful change, especially if it's out of the blue. Um, but that's enough about, like, how to listen to emotions. Of course, it's hard for people, and also one thing I would say is, like I said, don't like be like, hey, you want to talk about emotions, and then proceed to like, ooh, this is too much for me, because you never like fully know what the person is going through. Like you can relate to them, have empathy, sympathy for them, but like it's hard to say exactly what's going through their minds at any point in time. Like I'm gonna be honest, my friends who like people are generally surprised at like how bad I'm doing a lot of times. Whereas be like people be surprised at just how I'm always stressed out and like how much I'm always like, okay, well, will this work? Will that? Like, what about this, that, and the third? Like people are kind of they're not surprised because personality wise, like, oh, that's actually kind of surprising, but they're also very surprised at just how much it is. Um, so because of that, if someone when I talk to people, sometimes they're like, oh. Yes, that have happened to me before, and you should not do that. If you ask someone how they are feeling, be prepared to get exactly how they're feeling, because that's really what you asked for. Um, so, with that being said, let's talk about how to talk about emotions, because I think people don't really know how to often. Um, like, first of all, I'm gonna tell when I say how to talk about emotions, I do it in my way. Um, and how I do it. First of all, avoid yelling and projecting. It's just good to have a conversation in general, but like avoid doing that because while yes, having your emotion at a high when asked about it can be very thing, avoid doing it unless it's like the only case where like I can 100% I've done this before is like when you like hey you can like when they can visibly tell that you're very upset about something or something like that, and like you're doing stuff that they know are like either signs for like this, or in particular like you know it is pretty obvious that they are like I'm trying to think of signs. I guess my sign is like if I am standing still, right, and just not moving around a bunch, that doesn't mean I'm stressed out and whatnot. That just means that I'm trying to either figure out what I need to do, and I'm not shutting down. Or I'm like, okay, what would be the ultimate thing to do? Or I just don't want to sit down. Like, oftentimes people, this also goes back to talking to people, but like, oftentimes people will try to overcorrect their actions. Like, they will try to overanalyze it or try to get you open up, and it's not good, or do stuff like that. And that just doesn't help. But the point of me bringing that up is to say like yeah, like sometimes you have a sign and they're looking at that sign for like let's just say this sign is for when you're extremely sad, you can tell by this, that, and third, right? Um, Maybe if you cry and like you're like projecting like why, right? That type where like you see an anime and in real life where like they're yelling but they're crying. Like they do have like signs where like you can tell they're specifically extremely sad. Maybe, you know, yes, a little bit. I expect that. In those cases, I would be like, yeah, no, that's perfectly reasonable to be like, I don't think so. Actually, I think that my reaction is perfectly sound. Or when it's something like that person did something like wrong, like if someone's cheating on you, perfectly acceptable. Like just get out and yell at them. I would say still try not to, but like it's perfectly acceptable in my opinion. Um, Matter of fact, I would say go ahead, go at it, especially with Michael. But the point of me saying this is to try to do that when you're yelling. And then secondly, especially if you're talking to someone else about feelings regarding that person, do not hold back your emotions. Like I'm not the best at doing this, as I do hold back sometimes when I'm talking to people, as I'm trying to make sure that everything come off coherent. But like, don't hold back talking about your emotions when someone asks. Like they're like, "Hey, how are you feeling?" I mean, like completely and utterly, how are you feeling? Like holding back anything can be annoying and like detrimental. So do not hold back, especially because everything play a part in your life and mental state. So like having the best picture possible when like being able to express everything is important. Like tell the person everything um, as possible. It's just like a really good thing to do in life. Um, but the point is, like, the more information the person has, the better it is, and the more you talk about it, or like, the more you express your complete right range of emotions, the better it is for like communication purposes about it. Especially if you're like talking to someone else and like, when you did this, that, and the third, it made me feel this, that, and the third way. Don't hold back. Be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it really hurt me when you did this. It made me feel sad, and then I would like feel angry, but then I would just feel sad again, right? Like, do that when you're talking about emotions. Not enough people do that. People just like, oh no, I'm only gonna talk about the relevant emotion. No, every emotion can be relevant. Just talk about it. There's no point in hiding it. You're supposed to be talking about it. Secondly, don't force your emotions out. Like, if you want to talk about it, you don't have to force the emotion out and be like, I'm feeling sad or angry because of this. Cause even I do that time to time when I can, but even I can't really do that. Cause granted, I don't like it's hard for me to tell what emotion I'm feeling often. Um, so that's like the main reason why I don't do it. But I don't force it out. And when talking about feelings, it can also just be like, oh, like this happened, that happened, that happened. Like it doesn't have to be like, I feel sad because of this or anything like that. And it can also just be a general discussion, being like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, do you think I'm in the wrong for feeling this way? Like, what could I do differently? Like, stuff like that is also very helpful to do and talk about. Um, so make sure you talk like that and try to express yourself as best as possible. You don't have to be like absolute scholarly when you're doing it. Like trying to express your right emotions is good, and a good state of mind I try to be at just all the time, but especially when I'm like, okay, I want to talk to someone about my emotions. Especially when I'm like texting it. I don't think texting it does my ability to talk about my emotions service. Let alone how I actually sound. Because, say for instance, I don't really do it often, but like when I'm flirting with a girl, right? They can't tell how much I'm blushing because I'm wearing alcohol. Or like, if I'm like talking to someone I'm really excited to, they can't tell how much I'm smiling because I'm now on a call. Or because they don't have like a video tape. I will say though that sometimes they can't. Sometimes like, oh, you are really happy, and like, yeah, why wouldn't I be? But oftentimes you can't really tell via text. But like trying to get into a kind of mellow state where it's like a state of flow where everything come out. I would even say try to do this when like coming to unleashing your emotions, right? Like, uh, when I like, I'm like, okay, I need to have a cry. What I try to do is be as mellow as possible, put on some music that I find relaxing and calming, and then try to like make myself more vulnerable. Does this work every time? Kinda. I mean, I only started doing it recently. I only did it twice my entire life, but it worked. Like when it comes to like when I'm angry at something, it's hard for me to like. It's not that hard because oftentimes I just bottle it down. But what I've been trying to do is I'm trying to like focus it, understand it, and release it. Uh, just by like just having it slowly leave my body. Because I would say this: most cases, what good is being angry gonna do? Especially if you're trying to like actually communicate with someone. Like you can if what Spider did happen to most people, they'd be like, yeah, no, you are perfectly right to be angry. I'm probably gonna ask my friends about it, but like they would probably be like, yeah, no, you are in the right to be angry or whatnot. But I'm not only because it's Spider, but also because like there's no point in me being angry. Like, what's that gonna do? But in times where I'm like, like I need anger to release, uh, sometimes it can be like, or not really anger, more like frustration to be released. Sometimes just bottle up and then eventually go away. Sometimes I focus it, and a lot of times this is what I want my emotion. I focus it on work, um, but like you can use your emotions to do things. Like the other day, I had to break apart a log, right? And I was like focused in on it, but I was like, I need more striking power. What can I do? And I'm like, let me draw from Spider real quick. And like, let me try using sadness, right? Didn't really work that well, but then I was like, you know what? I know something that will work. Anger. And let me tell you, um, I don't know, like, I talked about it last time, but breaking something apart with breaking something that built to withstand compressional force against the weight that is built to withstand compressional force, it's really hard. But just by using my anger, I was able to do it pretty well. Also, I'm just strong, but that's besides the point. The point is, like, try getting that mellow state is a great way to express your emotion, just in general. Um, so just do it, right? Because it's just a really good thing, and like talking about your emotions, like even if you're talking to someone actually, like right now, no one's in the stream, unfortunately, outside of me, I think, uh, which is a weird system to have, but I guess it makes sense because it helps somewhat boost your thing versus like having absolutely no views. Like, yeah, I guess I can like see the point of having one view on there automatically being yourself if you're in the thing. But also because whereas both your live account and your thing account, so I kind of get the system. But that's just the way. The main person here is me, but like just talking about it in this mellow state is a really good thing. And also, I would say melancholiness isn't a bad thing all the time. Like I would say that's if what I'm saying now doesn't work for you, a melancholy state can also kind of work. Um, but yeah, like make sure that you try getting into that state really helps. And being like trying to fluently express it, it really helps too when it comes to like, okay, how are you gonna fluently express what you're feeling if you're like boiling with rage and whatnot. That's why I try not to do it, and I don't do it very often. Um, like especially more recently, right? Like I guess there one time you could say I could do it, but that wasn't like rage. That was like, no, no, I'm not gonna keep like this is just pointless. Like, why would I keep letting this happen for like the longest time? There was one time recently I just like lay it all out, not all of it out, but I was like, why would I like keep letting like this happen to myself over and over again when I know the same thing is gonna keep happening? Uh, and then how am I in the wrong for not like keeping like things the exact same, doing like keeping everything to myself, and now I'm letting it out probably because of that what they did to me. Because fun fact, uh, certain drugs can activate anxiety and whatnot. So yeah, but when that happens, like yeah, that day someone asked me how my day was, and I just blew up the first time, and then like even later, I was like, it wasn't a cry of like sadness, it was just a cry of frustration. But like even I was getting teary eyed, and I'm like, cause like as I told my friend, I was like, it's not really people I can talk to about like adults I could talk to. And this is where the value comes in. I would say like try another thing is try not to feel guilty when talking about your emotions because it really helps. Like I feel guilty a lot of times when I talk about it, but I really shouldn't because first of all these are my friends, right? And they can talk to me about it and I can talk to them about it. But like it also just go down to like even other thing. Like I don't think if my parents ever got me a therapist, I could ever fully. I don't know if I could ever fully be like, oh, I have a therapist in general. But like, especially like my parents pay for it. I don't know if I could ever be like, yeah, I feel fully comfortable. Because in the back of my mind, I'm always gonna be like, I'm using their money for this, and then I can't really talk to my parents about stuff because I just can't. That's another issue for a different day. Oh my god, that's such unfortunate timing. But what was I saying? Yeah, that was such unfortunate timing. Um, and then I don't really have any adults I can talk to either, because first of all, most of the adults are like my age, like they're my friends. So yeah, not really a adult to talk to. Like people recommend. And then teachers are mandated reporter, so I tell them everything. And then mandated reporter, right? Um, so it's kind of like trying to strike a balance, where it's like don't feel guilty about it, but don't talk too much about it. Like every conversation does not need to be a deep one about like, hey, Javert, how are you feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling absolutely horrible because I'm still on the run for the cops. While trying to protect this girl because her mother got killed because of not my own actions, but I'm gonna blame it on myself because at the time I was too focused on trying to not get caught and seeing what the problem was to actually be paying attention to her. And because someone I hired is what led to their death. Like, not every conversation need to be that deep. So try to strike a balance, but also keep in mind that like, yeah, getting a therapist will help sometimes, but just doing stuff that you like can also be a great way to express your emotions. Like this, I'm not gonna like, kind of not the best. Like it helped me a lot, and it really helps when I need a de-stress. But it's like certain emotions I can't do because I'm not like I can't talk to people online like that. Now I was to do the same thing, but I wasn't live. It wasn't gonna post this video. It was like private. Yeah, I could definitely do something like that. Actually, have before where it was like uh about my trip to North Carolina. I was made a private video. Granted, I thought they might ask us for reviews, but like essentially, I made a video where I was like, yeah, this video will probably never see the light of day. It actually hasn't still, but this is only here for like, if you need me to do a review. It was really bad recorded. I think it had decent audio, but like the camera went there, and I'm pretty sure I didn't have socks on, and you can see my feet, so probably will never be uploaded. But that's just one. Like doing stuff like this can really help with your emotions and learning how to talk about them too. So I will recommend doing that as it can be very helpful when it comes to like discussing how to do it. Another and like not feeling guilty about it. And another thing is, you don't have to believe everything people say online. Like sometimes when you're asking someone like, should I feel this way? Be willing to accept it, because sometimes you're all wrong. Like someone recently who I had a falling out with, right, was like, not recently, but like a month ago, was like, yeah, no, sorry, I was in the wrong. Because she was like feeling a bunch of emotions, and I understand, and I forgave her. I actually followed her recently because I honestly don't know why. Oh, because I saw her there, and I was following other people from bands. I was like, it'd be weird for me not to follow her if I'm following other people. So let me just go ahead and add it back. Also, kind of pretty sure she followed me back. So yeah, I was like, let me go ahead and add her back. Also, because I think I this is like a sense thing. This is not a sense thing. This is just me being weird. Why did he? Okay, I mean I don't know why he did that. Is he trying to farm school points? But this is just me being weird. I am low key scared of her. I don't mean that in the sense of like, oh, attractive wise. I don't mean that in the sense of like, oh, um, like I don't trust her. I just mean in the literal sense of like, so like it just she have like this aura of fear. But I might try talking to her again. But yeah, like if you're talking to someone, be expecting to receive some feedback every now and then. Like especially you're explaining the full scenario. Like there've been times where my friend or Banshee would be like talking about her relationship and whatnot, and I'd be like, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong for that. Like I didn't say your point of view, but like you should be doing this, and he should be doing this." Where the time where I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, take for instance, when we, especially when we first met her first boyfriend after me, I was like, yeah, he kind of has a point. I mean, he was in the wrong. Both of them were in the wrong, but it was like he was especially in the wrong, in my opinion. Uh, but it's whatever. I if I do get through everything in the stream, then that stream will be about school again. In particular, I want to complain about how people my age don't know how to talk and listen to people. Matter of fact, I would do that here, right? Also, when talking about your feelings and whatnot, you don't completely have to have complete faith in the person. Like sometimes, if they also looking at it objectively and like have the same mood as you, then you could do it. But like sometimes they just give you the dumbest thing, especially if they don't know the full story. Like if you have a third party, is the best one where they can get like third party with context with other people. That is such a good thing to do so they can get in contact with them, kind of fully understand both person's point of view, and like have a good like okay, so this is what's wrong. Yeah, I know you're wrong about this and you're wrong about that. Like I have done that multiple times for a fantasy relationship, where I would look at like okay, what can she do better, and what's that person wrong about, and I'd be like okay, so this is what you adjust and this is what you do. Um, Granted, not all of them were the best advice, and not all the time will I have both sides as good as I would want it to be. But like having both sides and having someone to talk to with both sides make listening to their advice way better versus having someone with only one side. Because then they're mainly going based on their own things and they don't know the other side point of view about it, which can lead to stuff where like you're spreading around rumors that were just wrong and kind of stupid to do because you just one of your friends said and you ran along with it. Uh, so I would say don't fully listen to that. That's actually, and this is like talking and discussing about emotions. I don't know. I gotta keep saying going back to, but like, I will also say, right, along the lines of talking about emotions, try to like be understanding of not only just yourself but other people too, because sometimes the problem when it comes to like why you feel that way could be like just a lack of understanding. So when it comes to like discussing and telling your emotions, have that understanding. And also if it's discussing, both parties need to realize that they need to talk. Like there've been several times where something would happen and instead of like talking about it, like take finishing this latest time with Banshee. Like sometimes people just don't know what talking is for the good things. Like this later time when I tried talking to her, I don't regret it now. But it's like if she would have actually listened, like that entire thing would have been so much smoother. Uh, but she didn't actually listen, so it was way rougher than what it should have been because yeah, let me not listen to what you said to begin with. And also some people just don't listen. And if you're talking to someone who like don't listen to you, especially when you, like pouring your emotion out to them, then don't talk to them anymore. Um, I think that if you have a friend or a significant other that you feel like doesn't listen to you when you say that stuff, it is pointless. Or if they don't listen to you, or or they listen and just don't care and like don't do anything to change it. Like, come on now. Also, this is just a piece of advice for life, but also with your emotions. If you have a specific way that you want people to talk to you, do it back. Like, me and Spider had like, oh, pretty similar like what we want from people to do when they're talking to us. But she didn't do that, but I would. Like, of course, I didn't really have complaints or whatnot. And I still don't have really much complaints uh, about anything. Like, my only complaint would be like, yeah, sometimes, yeah, I'm just confused on what you're doing because it says you're active, but then you don't open up your messages. But like, even then, I like, but I know that 9 times out of 10 that you're doing either something or it's just like not working, right? Like, I have an understanding of that. So it is alright for me to be like that. Um, and even the minuscule things, like when you're talking about emotions, even what you think is minuscule could also be a big factor. Because sometimes just that one small thing that's like, yeah, no, this is what made me mad. Like whether or not it's like a really small thing or not, it can really like work, like wear and tear at it. Um, I would say one of the best examples of this that I haven't personally heard, but someone was alright friends with this person until they crossed a border where they didn't respect their point of views uh, about something. I have no clue why. Oh, like they would say they were listening, but they weren't. I forgot why. I was trying not to use my own thing, but it would have just been simpler if I did. Um, but yeah, I forgot what I was about to say. But I don't really know what other advice I can give when it comes to discussing emotions. Also, I will say this: it is perfectly fine not to want to talk to people when you're going through stuff, right? Especially because if you think that most people don't. But if someone's actively, like, if someone you know, like, have that, okay, that was just a massive misplay on my part. If someone you know, like, just actively does, like talking about that, and like want you to talk about that, all that type of jazz, and you know listens to you, right? Or you might not think they do, but like if you ask them any questions, like ask them questions, like some few basic questions about yourself, and they can't answer it, then like especially if it's something that repeated over a course of like a while, then like yeah, I mean if they can, then just feel free to open up, because like even like I won't ever cross a boundary with it. Like I feel like even if someone was like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. I'm feeling like I want to kill myself. I would still be like, yeah, let's talk about it. Because it's just a matter of fact where I'm like that type of person where I'm open up to pretty much everything to talk about, right? So like, if you have someone like that, do not let one fear of something get in your way, or two, like you just don't know you can trust them. Like, if, in my opinion, if someone like you once again, if you know that person tries actively to get you to talk about it, just talk about it. Um, Especially in my case, like there've been times where people like hold back their feelings from me, and just make the thing so much worse. And unless I mean, rather than if you just said that from the start, like it. I will say this: always telling someone something from the start is way better than not saying anything. And I just think that's a matter of fact. Like I can't think of an example where I'm like, no, I don't agree with that. No, I think like in every case, pretty much, like the only time where I'm like, maybe you should wait a little bit is if like they're going through some heavy stuff, And when I mean heavy stuff, I mean like, let's say their grandmother just died, something like that. Yeah, like, yeah, I understand why you wouldn't want to tell them. Don't do that to me. I'd rather you just tell me anyways. That's just how I am as a person, though. Um, but like that aside, of course. Okay. Why didn't they attack? I have no clue. But that aside, like, just do it. I'm about to pull up the list again. I switch tabs to go look at something. In particular, refresh it. So before we move on to the next topic, I do have to get that back open up because remember, I have the best memory. I kind of remember what I want to talk about, but like I want to make sure I'm talking about it specifically. But yeah, if you have any more questions about it, or like what I would do, or if you want some like actual examples, maybe just let me know, and I'll make a video about it maybe. Or if I can, I would like get, because like some of these people I mentioned, I'm still like talk to, so like maybe I could get them in a Discord server call and like record it, like, hey, we're recording, and this is like how do we talk about feelings individually and whatnot, like. Yeah, I could do that if y'all want. Just let me know, okay? It's just like, hey, I find this really cool topic to talk about, but I want you to go into more detail about your personal relationships. Of course, I will have to ask the other person, and it won't be completely personal, but still. Now, for the next topic, I'm probably gonna play like a couple more games. We're actually gonna be back real quick. Alright, I'm back. What? Okay, I don't know why they said that. But, yeah, like, just talk to people. And also try to listen to them. Like, this is something I will say. When you're talking about your feelings, right? Once again, you should be expecting to get the other person's point of view back if you ask for it. But like, even if it's not a emotional appeal to something you're doing, like just look at the facts and logic at it. Like sometimes your biasness is too much for you to like actually get it. Where it's like, yeah, no, like the other person can get it, right? But it's like, come on now, come on now. Like you have to understand, like this is not a good choice. Uh, and even if it turns out like, you know, by some miracle it turns out well, like you shouldn't have done this because it have way more chances of turning out bad. Uh, they're gonna know who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. And that's not like when I say this, it's not even bias speaking. There have been multiple occasions, and even for myself, where I'm like, "Hey, should I do this?" And I would ask people, and they're like, "No, you're dumb." And I know it's dumb, but I will still do it. I regret it somewhat. The only time where I did that and didn't regret it was one occasion, and that was well, two occasions where I did something anyways and I didn't regret it. One was when I went to go talk to Banshee again, right? I didn't regret it because I'm like, okay, you know, now that I know the full story, I can like, you know, have no worries about it as dumb as the reasoning was. Um, but and the second time was, I don't regret anything I did with Spider. Well, some of the recent stuff, yeah, but like nothing else. Like, oh, like one of my people was like, hey, no, you should not talk to her again after that because like that's not a chill thing to do. But I was like, no, I can figure it. It's okay. And not gonna lie, should have listened. Should have listened. But I don't regret it. Kind of. Like I do know, like yeah, I should have listened. But it's like I don't regret it. But I will say though, there are times where like they say something and I'm like, yeah, no, I will not do that. Like There been times where someone like be friends with, and I'm like, should I be friends with them? And they say no, and they were correct, and I was correct. So yeah, sometimes your biasness can get in the way, and then it's just like, oh, like your history with that person. Sometimes legitimately just like your personality. Like they've been multiple times, like I said, like take for instance, with Vancy recently, right? And that situation would never happen if my nature didn't get in the way, if my personality didn't get in the way. Oh, that was how did that even happen? With no, it didn't say it got saved. Ooh, that's such a bad. Okay. But the point is, talk about your emotions and try to listen to people. Okay. Now that I have the thing up, I've been had it up, but I just wanted to talk about that beforehand. I do need to make sure that they don't score. Go. Okay. I really hate sometimes how much someone will go flying from just that tiniest bump. Like my dog, I was moving at 20 miles, not even 20 miles per hour. I was moving at 5 miles per hour. Why are you going flying? You weigh about the same as me. These people are really good. Like I don't know when I joined. I know I joined halfway through the game, I think, but like I don't know what these people were doing. They've been really good. They have like a goal or a goalie, which is blocking most of the shots. They have like great aerial control, which I know our team is lacking because I can't do aerial at all. Wait. Ah! See, aerial control. But yeah. But going back to the hand, certain, I just want to say that, because even if, after all said and done, right, I still rather people talk to me. So, next thing, understanding of people. This go hand in hand what I was talking about earlier when I said trying to understand people. A lot of people don't actually try to do this or actually try. And that sucks because a lot of issues could be solved with it. And a lot of times, sometimes just come from you not listening. I'm just gonna be honest. Sometimes just like, oh no, that person just is not listening and does not want to listen to it. Like Mr. Fire, right? There is literally 1,000 reasons why I can name, like outside of like, you know, stuff that I just say about him, where I can be like, you, like these are all the problems that you done before. Like, no, do not do this, right? Like even outside of all that, right? It's like, hey, try to understand where I'm coming from, right? But like, understanding can be in two ways. One, their logic, and two, their emotions, right? Um, Trying to understand a person's logic is way easier to follow because it's like logic, like evidence, reasoning, facts, logic, looking at history. Like it's very much like, hey, what had happened before? Look at this now. Like no, it's not the case, right? Like looking at people's facts and logic can be really annoying because sometimes they go against what you think or what you're hoping for. Like sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes the reality of the situation isn't what you think. And that logic is like going in the face of it. The great example of like using like actually listening to people and trying to understand their logic is when you're having an actual debate. Uh, like, I forgot what it was about. I forgot it was something about ethics. Oh, I think it was me and Jared. It wasn't like a humongous talk or Jay does reviews. Um, was discussing philosophy of like religions and whatnot, and in particular how it impact people and whatnot. And he was very understanding of my point of view. Right? We had similar point of view on some things, but we had different point of views on others. Like take for instance, I was like something that he doesn't really care for, right? But he was like, I get where you're coming from, right? is I was like, I don't understand why Christians feel the need to always put down other religions. Because by all manners of it, there's no point of doing it. And there's some religion that just make legitimately, like logistically and legitimately make zero sense. Like Buddha or Buddhism, like putting down Buddhism is like so like why? Not only is it more of an ideology set, but like it doesn't necessarily have gods. Like yeah, they do have gods, but it's not like it's more along the lines of from what I know. It's like no, it's because it's not like the religion itself or the ideology itself have God. It's more like yeah, no, just because how much like intertwined the stories are with what's it called like mythology that way is. But you can do Buddhism without needing to like have the beliefs in these gods, and that's how it often is practiced. Uh, I don't know what Hinduism is. I know it's a branch of Buddhism, but it's like that. Or like another example, I don't really hear people talk about it, but like Zen is also the same thing where it's like, yeah, I know it's like more of a mindset, but it's like, why do you feel the need to do that? And as a Christian myself, I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things that I don't agree that Christians do, right? Um, but okay, I damn it land. I don't think I did at least. But it's like you try to meet them at their logical point sometimes, and it could be really helpful. But sometimes, like you can try to understand their logic, but you can still be like they're wrong. Other times, you like actually take a second and think about it, because that's what some people don't do. They don't actually think about it for a second, or even consider the other person's point of view when using these loud like these points, right? Because sometimes you think about it for a second, you're like, okay, now I can understand why you think about it. Like, take for instance, an argument, right? That my brother got into recently with me was like, he was saying I was yelling at him. And first of all, I was projecting. But second of all, and like, there's a massive difference. But also, like, if you even look at it from like a logistical point of view, every point I said makes sense. And like, doesn't make sense for him to think I was yelling at him. Because, one, I was talking to our mother, who asked us a question, and I was giving her the correct answer. Um, but two, when you also add into the fact that like, hey, oh my God, that's such a fumble. But when you add on to the fact that he didn't like consider my own point of view, and he also kept trying to say I was lying without actually like looking at my facts and logic to prove otherwise, aka the time and what I did to get when I was doing the thing, right? Like stuff like that is such an easy fix when you just listen to them. Now I will say that some people are just wrong, and like even their facts and logic prove them wrong, and you don't have to like you shouldn't try to change someone's opinion, like force someone to change their opinion. You when you're trying to understand them and like reach an understanding, you're trying to not necessarily change their opinion, but like alter it. Be like, no, this is like why I think you should believe this instead, and give a facts and reason and logic. And some people won't change their opinion, right? Like, take for instance, people who are like transphobic. A lot of times they're not going to change their opinion if you list off like all the reason why they shouldn't do it. Being most importantly, is it your life? No. So why do you care? Oh, it's unnatural. My brother, have you seen all the stuff around us? Do you think steel is a naturally forming element? No. Newsflash, it isn't. Or like people like flat earthers and whatnot, where it's like, no, like, how can you believe this, which support this, but then don't believe this, which also do the same? It's like that. But the overall point is like meeting someone on their logic is way and trying to understand their logic way easier, because it's just like kind of twisting the point of view to like, okay, this is that okay, I can see it. Now the way harder one is emotions, because to begin with you have to actually listen to that person. Like, it can't just be like, and I would say especially over text, right? You have to listen to this person, otherwise, it won't like come off well. Like, if I was just to tell you, I'm feeling sad because I stubbed my toe with like out giving all the reasonings, right? They'd be like, well, okay, that's weird for you to be feeling that sad. Or without you listening, like let's say I was like went on a rant and I was like, yeah, but the cookie on the cream is I stubbed my toe the other day when I was trying to grab some coffee and I like when I stubbed it, it wasn't like just a simple stub. No, I literally broke my toe. Like if it's something like that, it makes so much more sense. Like if you listen to the full thing, so you have to actually listen and pay attention to the full conversation in order to get it. And oftentimes, I recommend doing this on a call, or like rather than over text, because doing it on a call, it really helps because you can also hear the person too. Um, but don't worry if you can't call. I'm just saying, ultimately, I think that's the best way to do it, either me in person or calling. Um, but then there are other things too, like when you're trying to understand someone's emotions, you have to first put aside your own. And that's one of the major things that people kind of like can't do often is putting aside their own emotions to be like, oh, okay, I understand where you're coming from, because it's sometimes hard to struggle. And a good way to like kind of get this down is first of all try to go and what I mentioned earlier, go into like a mellow state where it's like you kind of feel neutral about everything and you're like expressing it in the best way you can, right? But also another thing that will help is try to think about scenarios that you've been through that's the same, right? When you try to understand them. Look at the facts and logic, of course, but like, and look at like the scenarios around it. Try to think about it, try to analyze it, and then once when you do that, then you could make it way easier. Like, go at when if you are finding it hard to separate your emotions in the scenario that you're talking about, like whether it be your own biases against the person or whatnot, just like think about first of all from their point of view, right? I wish it's the easiest one, but you're struggling to do that. Just think about like writing a poem or reading a poem, doing analysis on it, where it's like think about why they say this, why would this lead to that. Like think about like some type of relative thing. So like for me, I'm really good at it, but I analyze it kind of like how I would literature and poetry. Like every word choice matter. Especially if it's someone I know. I'm like, okay, they don't typically say this, so you know that means this. Like to use an example, Spider tested okie dokie to a reply I had, and she doesn't really test that often. I would say the only like she never tested that to me before, so I'm assuming that at the time that meant like okay, I just don't want to hear about this anymore, right? I could be wrong though, but you know, like try to look at it from something that you can do relative to, where it's like you can meet them like that. But preferably, you would try to understand their emotions, too, and you gotta look at all the area around it too. Like, hey, what line of reasoning is coming from this and third? Like, is he just like, is he just an idiot or what? And try to understand that. Another thing is when it comes to understanding people is you have to kind of ignore like your like logic sometimes. Because there's some things that logically you wouldn't do, but your emotions do get the better of you, right? Like, logistically speaking, let's just say you're a transphobic guy. Not transphobic guy. You are trans, right? And you have, I don't know, a transphobic uncle, right? Logically speaking, you could be like, well, why would you ever try to talk to that person if you know that they don't like what you are? But emotionally wise, you have a big emotional attachment that you had to that person beforehand, which make it harder for you to like not have that same thing, and you want to still have it, so you try to change your opinion, right? Like understanding the like bigger picture is also really important. Because if without it, then what? What are you left with? A half a picture. Like try and get as much information in as big a picture as possible help with understanding. Um, and it's like a major factor of when you're trying to like reach a understanding. Uh, Another thing I would say is try to be patient. Oftentimes, another thing that people like make things worse when it comes to trying to reach understanding is, first of all, they're not being patient with it. Like, especially if it's something about like, oh, like this, like something you have to confront too. Being like, let's say you do something that this person does not like you doing, right? Even when it comes to stuff like that, you might want to take a second, be patient, and like not only with that person, so they can like go through it. If it's something like you know that they just went through something, and like okay, maybe this is why they're having that opinion. But also, you might want to have patience when it comes to and take time to think about like why and whatnot. Like, yeah, you also need to process your own emotion too when it comes to what they say. So it like immediately replying to it isn't always the best idea because it's not like okay, I took time to break it down. Now it really depends on a case by case basis and also who you are as a person. Like I know that I say this, but I would say relatively most of the time it doesn't take me that long to like understand people, especially now because I've grown way more as a person than I was when I was younger. And I also feel like I care more now, but and mature thanks to like really TV shows and whatnot, and the people around me, like my friends in particular. Um, but the point is, like in my case, I wouldn't say it take me too long to understand it. I could very much relate to a lot of things just because of like my general life experience. Like take for instinct, if someone's like, yeah, I'm struggling financially and causing this amount of stress, I'm like, oh, I totally get it. Or like someone like I really don't like the fact that we move and like talking about that, I can relate to a lot of things, which is helpful. Uh, to when it comes to like understanding people because you can be like, oh yeah, I completely understand. Literally, I went through a similar thing. Um, so having trying to be able to reach that understanding is important. I will be back in 1 second. Probably gonna switch to potato when we come back. So let me pause stream. That's great. Alright, I'm back. But, I just want to recap real quick in case I forgot, or in case they forgot. This video is just a general video, but I also think that this video can help some people, and that's the reason I made it. I'm sure there's one person who I can think about, that will help, and also just think I want to be able to express my feelings a bit. But back to what I was saying, like, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase trying to understand people, right? So, when it's come to understanding people, uh, like it's generally a hard thing to do, and like you don't have to be like, don't underestimate how hard it is to do, because it is really hard to do. It's like one the not hard thing to do, but it is like really hard to do, and it also revolves around like knowing the other person too. Because if you don't actually know the person that you're trying to relate to, then you're not gonna do it as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, I understand what you mean. No, you don't, because you can't relate to me. You're not understanding what I'm saying. Like, understanding is heavily important when it comes to like how you should interact with stuff. And trying to reach that understanding comes from being willing to take time to understand the person and actually look at it. And the reason why this is so important is because a lot of times, a lot of issues when it comes to relationships and friendships comes from people just not trying to reach an understanding or caring enough to do that. And this makes it even worse when you have stuff like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like things where like, oh, it's even worse now. Like, something can make it even worse when it's like, oh, dang it, I just realized what I was gonna say, but I forgot. Like, some things can make it worse if you just don't do it. And then oftentimes another thing is, because we don't like actually reach an understanding or truly bother to do it sometimes, oftentimes it can lead to our own problems being amplified when it comes to the result of our actions. Um, so I would think that reaching an understanding is heavily important. Now I will end this video here for now, because I would like to not make this too long. That way not like too overwhelming to anyone. And also because I'm pretty sure someone's here. So with that being said, I will be ending today's live. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will be coming back soon.